Hey Booktube, hi, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Before I get started on today's video, I am actually hoping that if you don't normally give, a thumbs up or comment in my comment box, I would love for you to comment on this video, just to say hi so I know you're here, or you can, as Kelly from Books I'm Not Reading would say, you can leave an emoji in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up if you want to just kind of say hi but don't want to comment. But I would love to hear from you. And if you're not subscribed, I would encourage you to subscribe. And as Jolene from Bookworm Adventure Girl says, to stick around. The two women I mentioned have wonderful channels here on Booktube. And so if you don't know them, you should get to know them because they're wonderful. And I will link their channels down below. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Well, today we are talking about, I'm looking at my computer because we're going to be talking about the Booktube Prize. So here's what happened with the Booktube Prize. I am in a reading group, and many of us had signed up for the Booktube Prize. Let me back up. What is the Booktube Prize? The Booktube Prize is a literary prize that uses a bracket system in order to determine the best fiction books and the best nonfiction and now translated fiction books of the previous published year. And so Robert, he is a Barter Hordes on Booktube. He helps run and organize the Booktube Prize, and so there are a bunch of judges who judge the rounds, and again, it's a bracket system. So the top three ranked books from that pool of judges moves on to the next round. If I am not making any sense, I will leave a video down below with Robert's instructions about the Booktube Prize, but it is a community effort to find the best fiction books, nonfiction books, and translated fiction books of the previous year. So we are investigating books from 2021, and I signed up for nonfiction. And as we were going to find out our assignments, you can sign up to be a judge, but you also have to be assigned to be a judge. And so we were going to find out our assignments with my group, and we were going to find out on February 1st. And so February 1st rolled around, and it's early in the morning. I check my ballot, because that's what we get, a ballot, to vote and rank and so on, and I didn't have one, so I wasn't chosen at first. And then I got an email 2 days ago from Robert, and he said that someone didn't want to judge, and would I be willing to judge? And of course I said yes. So this long preamble just to say that now I'm a Booktube Prize judge, and the first rule of the Booktube Prize is you can't talk about the Booktube Prize. According from Alice in the Giant Bookshelf and Gem of Books. I'll link their channels down below too, to other judges and great community members and wonderful channels, wonderful ladies here on Booktube. I'm going to stop gushing about the Booktube community. So the first rule of the Booktube Prize is that you can't talk about your opinions and your thoughts about the books until they're no longer in the running to win. But I can say what I'm reading, and I'm going to present that now. So I signed up for nonfiction. I was really open to reading pretty much anything nonfiction-wise. I just don't have any qualms with it. Whereas if it was a fiction, I have a more developed taste in fiction. I'm less open. And so I didn't want that closedness, that less openness to really affect the way that I judged. And I thought that I myself am a lot more open as a nonfiction reader. And I wanted to see what books were coming out. I wanted to see the new releases in nonfiction that were coming out. I wanted to know what people are investigating with their nonfiction writing. And so I was like, let's do nonfiction, let's judge nonfiction. So I was assigned nonfiction group E, and I have two of the books in front of me. So the first one is Daniel James Brown, Facing the Mountain. Facing the Mountain was published in May of 2021, and it is the true story of Japanese American heroes in World War II. It's telling the story about Japanese Americans who were imprisoned here in the United States in internment camps during World War II. And Daniel James Brown sets out to tell their story. It's one I've started. I'm not going to say anything about it, but it's the one that I've actually started, and I'm about 80 pages in. This book I got from the library, which I'm really excited about. The next book I also got from the library, and then 4 books I actually purchased, and they're on their way to me. So yeah, this is a history book, so it's really talking about that time period in the United States during World War II. And I would consider this a history book. The next book is a biography by a very well-known biographer, Walter Isaacson. So Walter Isaacson actually wrote the Steve Jobs biography, the one that we see with that famous sort of Steve Jobsy turtleneck and expression on his face. And this is actually about Jennifer Doudna. I had to look up how to say it. And Jennifer Doudna actually won the Nobel Prize, she's a Nobel laureate for her work in coding, genetic coding. I don't know a ton about this, but I know that she broke barriers in understanding how DNA and certain genetics work, and then how to develop vaccines based on somebody's DNA. And she really, again, broke barriers in science. And so this is her biography by, again, a very well-known biographer. Okay, the next book I'm going to talk about is The Doctor's Blackwell, and that was written by Janice P. Nimura. I have this on order. It's coming to me, and it's going to be about 2 sisters, Elizabeth and Emily Blackwell, who were doctors in the 1850s, and it talks both about their relationship. They're very competitive and allies to enemies depending on where they are. This is what I imagine this book is about. I haven't read it. I'm just based on the description. So it's about the sisters and their relationship, but it's also about the founding of a hospital, an infirmary for women and children that was entirely staffed by women. So again, another sort of theme of women breaking barriers, women in science, women in the medical history. So this topic is fascinating, and I'm wondering if it's a trend in the nonfiction books this year, women who have broken barriers in fields that we normally or don't tend to think women to have broken those types of barriers. So I'm wondering again if that's a theme. The next book is Beloved Beasts: Fighting for Life in an Age of Extinction by Nagias. I don't know a ton about this book, but I know that from what I have gathered is that every chapter is dedicated to a specific animal that is either in danger of extinction or is extinct. It's like an endangered species, and she spends that chapter focusing and writing about that animal. This is noted as a science writing, science and nature writing. She is, Michelle, our author, is compared to Rachel Carson, who wrote the book Silent Spring. I haven't read any of Rachel Carson's books, but I know that Rachel Carson is known to blend science writing with poetry or more lyrical writing, and that Rachel Carson is able to strike that balance. And so Michelle Nagias, or Nagias, not really sure how to say her name, does something similar according to the reviews and the basic summary of the book. So yeah, interesting. I really like the title. I really like the cover of the book. Okay, so the next book is called Ghost in the Throat by, maybe you all can hear this because I don't know if I can say it. Doria Nigriofa. So Ghost in the Throat. This seems to be a blend of memoir and analyzation of history and poetry. And so what it seems to be is that this author got really into this poem that was published in the 18th century, and she uses the analysis of the poem both to investigate the real story that the poem is based off of, and it's a bit of an autofiction and memoir of her life as well, the author's life. And so it has a blend of these two elements, both kind of like a literary sleuthing and then also this auto-fiction-y, about one's personal life. And so I'm wondering how the author is going to balance that and the story that she's going to be able to tell as the story unfolds through this investigation. Ghost in the Throat is one of the books that I know the least about in regards to formatting, and I would actually be very interested to have the book in front of me because, again, she's talking about poetry, she's talking about literature, and yet she's talking about her own life. And so I'm wondering how she blends the three together. So definitely interested about, that book. As I am for actually all of these books. There's no book on here that I'm not interested in. Okay, the last book is The Sinner and the Saint. And this is a book about, kind of about Dostoevsky. I think it's by Kevin Birmingham. And so this book is, again, I noticed that the Russians make an appearance a couple of times on this list. So there is, on the nonfiction, long list for the Booktube Prize, there is the George Saunders, the long title, where, published recently, and Saunders explores Russian writers of short stories and analyzes them in that book. And so there's that book about the Russians that made the long list for the Booktube Prize. And then there's this one, and it's called The Sinner and the Saint. And it is about the real-life murder that inspired Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. And I think it's a blend of like Dostoevsky and his work, and then also some real events that happened that might have really shaped Dostoevsky's writing. So I'm interested again to see about that topic. So it seems like the books in this group have a good blend. There are a couple of biographies, there are a couple of history books, there is a book that has science writing, and then there's like a memoir kind of book. So I'm really interested to see how all of these books shake out for me. I really don't know. I'm very open to all of them. I couldn't tell you anyways, but there's no real like contender in my mind that I think will be better than another. And mostly I'm just excited to dig in and to get into these books, to read them, and to let you all know how I feel and think about them and how I ranked them. Of course, when everything is all said and done. But if you want to know what I'm going to be reading in the next 2 months, these books I'm going to be reading in the next 2 months, and I won't be talking about them until we get some results of the first round or of the octafinals in the Booktube Prize. So yeah, again, excited about this. I would say let me know if you've read them and what you thought, but actually please don't. Please don't let me know what you thought. I'm just letting you know that I'm reading them and that I'm a part of this community project that I'm very, very excited about. And I'm gonna have to get kind of creative with my video making in the future since I can't talk about the books I'm reading about. Oh well, I guess we'll see what happens. And I also have several other books on the go, so I'll be able to talk about those. But yeah, that's it. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for being here and, letting me sort of struggle through these initial impressions about the Booktube Prize. Yeah, I'm excited. So yeah, anyways, I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye, guys.